Has already appeared before the committee, and still to come we do expect a committee on transport, works and supply, as well as a committee on youth, sport and child development to appear before the committee. Right now we take you to the expanded planning and budgeting committee. Stay tuned.
The Committee on Transport, Works and Supply has the honor to present the report to your committee on the estimates of revenue and expenditure for the financial year 1st January 2030 to 31st December 2026 for the 5th session of the 13th National Assembly. Chairperson, the functions of the committee are set out in Standard Orders 2006H and 207 of the National Assembly of Zambia, Standing Orders 2024, and in accordance with the Standing Orders 207H, the committee considered the 2026 estimates of revenue and expenditure for the following heads. Chairperson, we are honored to be given Head 54 under the Ministry of Transport and Logistics, and Heads 51, Ministry of Transport and Logistics, and Heads 54, Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. Chairperson, the committee report, which highlights the findings and recommendations of the committee on each head, is in two parts, and part 1 presents the committee's findings and recommendations arising from the consideration of the budget estimates for Head 51, Ministry of Transport and Logistics, while part 2 outlines findings and recommendations emanating from the consideration of the budget estimates for Head 54, Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. Chairperson, permit me to highlight some of the recommendations of the committee on the two heads of expenditure. Key features of the committee's findings and recommendations for Head 51, Ministry of Transport and Logistics. The committee learned that the total budget allocations to Head 54 in 2026 amounted to 619.6 million kwacha. Of the amount, transfers took up the largest share at 405.9 million kwacha, representing 65.5% of the total allocation. Personal emoluments were projected at 77.5 billion kwacha, accounting for 12.5%, while goods and services stood at 52.5 million kwacha, representing 8.5% of the allocation. Meanwhile, capital expenditure on assets was allocated 83.7 million kwacha, which translated to 13.5% of the total budget. Chairperson, committee's observations and recommendations on the same. The committee made the following observations and recommendations. Chairpersons, on recruitments of road traffic inspections. The committee learned that the Road Transport and Safety Agency has created a fleet safety unit in line with the provisions of the Road Traffic Act number 11 of 2002. To enhance road safety and ensure public service vehicle comply with fleet safety standards, the committee further notes that the increase in the number of registered motor vehicles has actually led to increased workload and operational demands on the existing staff. To address this, the agency needs to recruit an additional 392 employees at 157.6 million to increase its staffing levels to 74%. Chairperson, the committee learned that at the moment, the institution only has about 30% of the required total human resource. In view of the foregoing, the committee recommends that the government should prioritize the allocation of 157.6 million to the Road Transport and Safety Agency to facilitate the recruitment of 392 additional employees. This will strengthen the agency's operational capacity and improve service delivery. Chairperson, on the findings for enforcement vehicles. The committee learned that the Road Transport and Safety Agency plans to conduct 6 joint highway patrols and 4 joint road safety enforcement operations in 2006. However, the committee notes that the agency's fleet of vehicles is aging, which limits its capacity to carry out these planned activities effectively. The committee further observes that the 2006 budget does not provide for funds for the procurement of enforcement vehicles. The committee chairperson learned that the agency has been requesting for the procurement of vehicles from 2023 up to now. Nothing has been done. The committee therefore recommends that the government should allocate additional funding of 120.4 million for the procurement of 40 enforcement vehicles to the Road Transport and Safety Agency. This will enable the agency to sustain planned joint highway patrols and road safety operations, as well as support revenue collection efforts. The committee actually learned, chairperson, that our road transport, or rather RATSA, is one of the major contributors towards the GDP of our locally generated revenue. Chairperson, and dispersed 100 million kwacha allocation to the Zambia Railways Limited for 2025. During its deliberations, the committee observed with concern that the approved 100 million kwacha that was allocated to Zambia Railways Limited to support the track works under head 51, under head 21, Ministry of Finance and National Planning for 2025 are not being dispersed to date. This situation is very disheartening and shows the lack of prioritization that is placed on the Zambia Railways Limited. In view of this, the committee chairperson strongly urges the Ministry of Finance and National Planning to ensure the immediate release of the 100 million kwacha to Zambia Railways Limited to enable the company to maintain its operations and indeed effectively implement its activities. Chairperson, another item that we looked at was the high land rate. The committee learned that between 2021 and 2024, most municipal councils revised their land and property rates upwards. These adjustments have actually resulted in substantial increases in the land rate payable by the Zambia Airports Corporation Limited for its aerodromes. The rising rates have negatively affected the corporation's operations costs and overall cash flow. Chairperson, allow me just to cite some examples on this one, where the committee learned that, for example, our newly refurbished KKI, that's Kenneth Kaunda International Airport, previously they used to pay about 3 million kwacha per annum, but today they are paying 30 million kwacha in terms of rand rates to Chongo Municipal Council per annum, which is quite suffocating a figure. In view of the foregoing, the committee recommends that the government consider developing a harmonized framework for land rate assessments on strategic national infrastructure such as airports to ensure the financial sustainability of their operations. Some aerodromes, chairperson, does not even raise the monies that these municipal councils are asking for in terms of land rates. Chairperson, I will come to part 2 on key features of the committee's findings and recommendations for Head 54, Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development. The committee learned that during the period 2024 to 2026, the budget allocation to the Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development had experienced a consistent decline both in absolute terms and as a proportion of the national budget. Chairperson, in 2024, the ministry was allocated 662.4 million and it dropped to 622.5 million in 2025 and an increment to 630.2 million in 2026. However, the national budget has increased significantly during the same period, from 177.9 billion in 2024 to 217.1 billion in 2025 and 223.1 billion in 2026, reflecting an increase, chairperson, of about 42%. Committee's observations and recommendations. In summary, the committee chairperson recommends the following. additional funding for infrastructure development. The committee observed that the funding allocation towards public infrastructure development is inadequate to clear unfinished projects and to expedite the implementation of ongoing works. The committee further notes that without additional funding, project completion timelines may be delayed, leading to increased costs. In light of this, the committee recommends that the ministry reallocates 277 million within the existing head or additional allocation to prioritize public infrastructure development. This will enable the ministry to clear outstanding works, accelerate the completion of ongoing projects, and prevent cost escalation associated with project delays. Under collection of non-tax revenue, that is under correction of non-tax revenue, the committee observed that since 2025 the ministry has consistently fallen short of its non-tax revenue collection targets. This continued underperformance poses risks to the government's fiscal consolidation efforts and undermines domestic resource mobilization. Chairperson, in view of the foregoing, the committee urges the Ministry of Development and the ministry to develop and implement practical and results-oriented measures during the 2026 budget year to enhance non-tax revenue collection. These may include strengthening compliance mechanisms, improving revenue collection systems, and enhancing coordination with the Zambia Revenue Authority. Chairperson, on delayed release of allocation of funds, the committee notes that despite a commendably high absorption rate indicating efficient use of available funds, the delayed release of allocated resources continues to hinder the timely implementation of the planned activities. Chairperson, to address this, the committee recommends that the ministry engage the Ministry of Finance and National Planning to ensure a more predictable and timely disbursement of funds in the 2026 fiscal year, thereby improving service delivery and implementation efficiently. Chairperson, as I conclude, the 2026 budget allocations to Head 51, Ministry of Transport and Logistics, Head 54, Ministry of Infrastructure, Housing and Urban Development demonstrates the government's continued commitment to positioning transport, logistics and infrastructure as key enablers of economic growth, trade facilitation and regional integration. While the allocation reflects a positive upward trend, particularly under Head 51, systematic challenges persist. These include weak compliance with statutory reporting obligations, inconsistencies between planned targets and achieved outcomes, and indeed data reliability gaps that undermines accountability. Chairperson, furthermore, the continued under-release of funds, particularly under Head 54 and the Zambia Railways Limited under Head 51, has constrained the effective implementation of programs. Consequently, these challenges have diminished the overall impact of increased allocations and raised concerns regarding the efficiency of resource utilization. The committee, therefore, Chairperson, wishes to urge the Treasury to ensure that approved funds are disbursed timely without further delay. Chairperson and the committee, I beg to submit.
Thank you, Vice Chairperson, for that submission. Honorable members, any questions? Honorable Mabenga.
Yeah, thank you, Chair, and thank you, the Vice Chairperson, for that information. I'm a bit uncomfortable with some of the recommendation, because the policy of government is to remove 30% of cargo from the road and to the rail. Now, in your recommendation, I haven't seen this coming out on how or recommending that Zambia government should revamp Zambia Railways, including the Mwavezi train, which is also not even mentioned at all. Tazara is not even mentioned. Kazungura line there is not mentioned. I expected the report to have said something so that we preserve the road asset, because the roads are being damaged day and the night because of the heavy cargo which is actually using the road. So we need to shift cargo from the road until the thing. I haven't seen that recommendation apart from the 100 million which is owed to Zambia Railways. And also if we come to page 10, page 10, table 8, we have this head 1001, rural and urban housing. Now this amount here, I just want to find out whether it also includes the new district whose infrastructure is stored, or it doesn't. And if it doesn't, what happened to the new infrastructure, because that very soon it will still deteriorate. And if you come to the same page 1007, we have urban development. Now I don't know whether you had an opportunity to interrogate the witness why they are neglecting rural development, because we are also people living there. Why concentrating on urban rather than and excluding rural development? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You can respond to those, Vice Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and let me sincerely appreciate the Honourable Member for that question. I'll take the first part of the question. The other maybe parts of the urban development will be handled by either my Honourable colleague, Honourable Sandy Chanda, or indeed Honourable Member for Chifu, Honourable Rwozia. I want to fully agree with the concerns of the Honourable Member on Zambia Railways. And Chairperson, this committee tasked works as its name, the Committee of Transport, Works and Supply. In most cases, it's actually so much concerned on the Zambia Railways issues. That is why this 100 million kwacha was highlighted as to why it hasn't been released to Zambia Railways to help it actually improve on some of deteriorated infrastructure. I totally agree that one of the lines that is actually beyond redemption, which needs urgent and quick action, is the Livingstone-Mulobezi rail track. And the committee actually, Chairperson, had an opportunity to benchmark on the same line where we learned actually that the train that leaves Livingstone reaches Mulobezi maybe in 3-4. If it moves without any derailments, it takes the train to reach Mulobezi in 3 days. A total distance of about 100 kilometers. So indeed we are very much concerned, and particular attention was given to seeing how government can actually come to the aid of Zambia Railways by helping it to revitalize and capacitate it to improve some of the tracks that are bad from Lawombwe up into Livingstone. That was not left untackled. We are aware as the committee for sure, and we interrogated all these issues, though it's not actually highlighted in our report, that we need to follow the law which talks about the 30% moving cargo on the rail line. But the challenge, Chairperson, and the committee is, yes, that SI is there, but it becomes a challenge for clients who wants to move their cargo on the line because of the time that is taken and the delivery time in terms of railway. Yes, indeed, Honourable Member, Zambia Railways needs a lot of funding, and that was actually highlighted, and I'm sure maybe my colleagues can add 1 or 2 things there. But I don't want to agree with the concerns of the Honourable Member in terms of Zambia Railways and moving cargo 30% off the roads to the rail line.
Thank you so much, Vice Chairperson and Chair. Thank you so much. Indeed, we interrogated this issue, and what was very clear was that even as we work on the Tazara, we said that Tazara remains underutilized in the absence of a vibrant Zambia Airways. If give longevity or a longer lifespan to our roads, the Zambia Airways has to come on board. And our position is that the government must, the executive must give the same sort of energy it did to Tazara, and that the same energy should be given to addressing the challenges being faced by Zambia Airways. At the moment, the Zambia Airways story countrywide is a sad story. And even when we talk about transforming Zambia into the transport and the logistics hub, in the absence of us giving priority to Zambia Airways, we are still just shooting ourselves in the foot. The committee may be interested to know that even when we look at the number of corridors that are under consideration, we've got the Lobito corridor, we have the North-South corridor coming up. All these corridors, if Nakara corridor, if we do not address the question of Zambia Airways, these corridors will put even a heavier burden on our road network. And this will probably, instead of it being a blessing, it will just become a curse for our road network, and the carnage will be on the rise. So there's every need for Zambia to prioritize Zambia Airways. Chair, the need for equity in terms of urban versus rural development, this again becomes very critical because it appears as though development is skewed towards urban development at the expense of rural development. Rural development in most instances, in the absence of CDF, you find that our development needs do not attract the same sort of priority and attention as would for urban populations. And this is again where we need to rethink the model on the part of the executive, that the executive needs to consider equity in terms of rolling out development and attending to urgent needs, urban versus rural needs. Chair, submit.
Thank you, Chair. Maybe through you, maybe the Honorable Rosa might also add one or two.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. I think maybe just to also amplify on the issue of Zambia Airways. The problem of Zambia Airways is quite a big issue which cannot be addressed by the budget allocation given. If you look at Zambia Airways, they received about 100 million last year, which was not even given to them. And when our committee had an opportunity to inspect the Zambia Airways infrastructure, and according to the estimates that our colleagues at Zambia Airways came up with, was they were talking about 2 billion to revamp the entire structure or infrastructure for Zambia Airways. So $2 billion. $2 billion that is needed to revamp Zambia Airways infrastructure. However, government, from the submissions received from the ministry, they told us that to revamp Zambia Airways, an agreement has been entered into by the government of Zambia and EU to procure a loan to a tune of 55 million euros to revamp the infrastructure of Zambia Airways. So at this stage, Zambia Airways has continued to suffer excruciatingly at the allocations coming from the national budget at this stage. And it seems government seem to prioritize more the road network at the expense of the railway network. So there is need, I think, to reposition our consideration if Zambia Airways is to be revamped and continue to contribute to our economic development. Then the honorable member took us to page 10, but he just said, is this figure, now considering the figures that are on page 10, they are quite many, so we don't know the figure he was referring to, because he just said, does this figure include the issue for housing? So which figure was he referring to?
So under page 10 of your report, that which we have, which is, in fact, he mentioned when you look at program number under 2021 Housing and Urban Development, the sub-program there, one is 001, which is Rural and Urban Development.
Yes.
Then we have 34.2 billion for 2026. I think that's what he was asking, whether that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, according to the interrogation, it also involves the infrastructure development in the rural setup.
Okay. Any other questions, honorable members? Honorable Mavenga, then honorable Simunji,
Yeah, Chair, just
honorable Mukosa.
follow up, because looking at the report itself, and the committee had a lot of information. Is it possible that this report is going to be cleaned up and then resubmitted? Because they gave us
So
a
come
lot
again, honorable.
cleaning up the report, adding
Honorable Mavenga, I'm saying, come again. What are you saying?
I mean, looking at the information which the committee has given us, which is missing in the report, is it possible that that information can be included in the report, on especially Zambia revenue, because it's a very important information which the executive must know. And then my other question is on page 7, that is the recruitment of staff. I just want to find out whether this recruitment of more staff without addressing corruption and attitude change in the transport sector is going to actually help. Because to me, I see it's just attitude change. The staff is there, but if you look at them, it's just laissez-faire attitude towards work. So this recruitment, even if we recruit this, is the carnage going to reduce on the road? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. But maybe before the others come in terms of the report, the way it is sitting, I know Honorable Mavenga will come from Mulobez, where is it the Livingstone? Mulobez trainees, and you really want to see it, but we are looking at the whole report. And as far as this committee is concerned, there is no information that which is missing on that one, because this is what they were taught, the committee was given to look at, not specifically to say because Mulobez is not there, then the report is missing. So for information on that one, I know it's a burning issue, and it's good. In fact, the committee has touched on it in their response. They have indicated that extensively. They have engaged the ministry, isn't it? So it's one that is not in black and white here, but the report is sitting okay. So to that effect, maybe as you respond, you can respond on his second question in terms of the employee. But before you do that, Honorable Simunji and then Honorable Mukosa had questions. So just take note of those. You can switch off your mic, Honorable Mavenga. Honorable Simunji.
Thank you, Chair. I'll take it to page 11. There's a table there. Now when I analyze the table, there's approved budget and a budget release that's there, and the expenditure. So the expenditure, the first item is talking about 100%, second item 91%, third item 102%, fourth item 105%. From my own analysis, approved expenditure and the releases, the first one is giving me 66%, second one 67%, third one 51%, and the fourth one 50%. I wanted to find out from the committee if the witnesses who came before the committee were able to give real reasons why the releases were not given according to the budget. Because of this, I'm wondering how the ministry can even increase on the 2026 budget, given that they will not release all the money which the budget for. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Honorable Mukosa.
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to find out on this issue of recruitment of road traffic inspectors. The committee is recommending that the government needs to prioritize the allocation of 157 million to support the recruitment of these road traffic inspectors. Is this allocation be recommended that be prioritized in 2026 or for the future? Because it's not very clear. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. You can respond to those.
Thank you very much, Chair. I've got some colleagues here. They will help me to respond to some of the questions. But I will begin with the same question from Honorable Mabenga. I want to give some comfort to the Honorable Member that yes, indeed, even if Mulobezi is not mentioned, Livingston-Mulobezi rail track is not mentioned in the report, please take some comfort that this is one of the issues that the committee actually labored to interrogate with the committee, with the witnesses, and indeed not only with the witnesses, just like my colleague Honorable Sandy Chanda said, it's an issue that we are also looking at, even when we are looking at the other subject matters like the Robito Nakara corridors, because without Mulobezi and the Livingston rail track, I think we'll be running short of the completion in terms of the chain. We are aware that even during this time before the rain comes, we know that there is a very problematic bridge called the Wombwe between Livingston and Mulobezi. The committee is aware and we interrogated all those things. However, Chair, with your permission or with your instructions, if Honorable Mabenga is not satisfied with the inclusion of that, maybe Secretariat might get some advice from you as to whether to indicate that piece or otherwise. But everything was actually tackled. Before I come to the second question from Honorable Sonushi, let me also look at the issue of that was raised by Honorable Mabenga in terms of the recruitment of staff. It is very clear, Honorable Chair, that indeed RATSA is under, maybe if I may use the term, underperforming in terms of checks and balances on our roads because of understaff. Where they mentioned that the whole country at the moment, Honorable Chair, they only had 70 road inspectors. Am I correct, colleagues? 70, the entire country. Now, if you look at the traffic flow and the increase in terms of traffic on our roads today, it becomes a challenge for the CEO with these 70 road inspectors to carry out these activities. And especially that they are planning to be holding the activities, the two activities that I mentioned in my report with other stakeholders. It will be very challenging. Above all, they are operating at 30% in terms of staffing level. And for sure they need to have an increase in terms of their human resource. The 126.7 million that they are looking for is for the immediate risk for recruitment for 2026. So they want that to be in the 2026 budget so that they can improve on their staffing levels. Honorable Member for Chinsali, if you look at today at the roads, we actually having a lot of challenges, as I've mentioned, in terms of traffic flow, because we are lacking inspections, road inspectors. We are supposed to have quite a number of road inspectors on our roads, but they don't have such a staff. So from the interrogations and the interaction that we had as a committee, it came out clearly, Honorable Chair, that indeed they need to be given this shot in their arm. For the second question, maybe I'll allow my honorable colleague to handle the issue of the table. Honorable Rose.
Thank you. Your mic? Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. When you look at the programs that are here, there is housing, public infrastructure, government asset, property management, and management support services. We have seen the approval and the released figures and the actual, the approved, like for example on the housing was 101,925,234. Then what was released was 68,269,597.74. Then the whole amount was spent. Now the question, for example, was why would they need more budget allocation? So we have seen that when you look at this budget, like for housing, they have spent 100%. Then for public infrastructure, they have spent 91%. So meaning the money that is coming on the expenditure is being utilized, except that sometimes Treasury tend to release the money a bit late, and maybe sometimes the money released is not enough. That makes it very difficult for the ministry in spending this money.
Thank you. Honorable Simunji, follow up, then you have Honorable Mabumba and Honorable Mumba in that order. I'll come to you, Honorable Mabumba.
Chair, the committee, I think, is not answering my question.
What was your question, sir?
My question is, they are talking about 100% spent on the money released. I'm talking about the money which was released against the approved budget. So my question is, why should we even increase the budget when a Minister of Finance is not even able to release what we are budgeting for? So that's my question.
Thank you. Can you respond to that?
Yes.
Before we go to...
Thank you so much. I think that from the submissions that we received from the ministry, we were told to say it has been a challenge for the ministry to receive money in record time from the Treasury. And Treasury is quite constrained as a result of the collections. And this is the more reason why even Zambia Railways, they did not receive the allocation. And even other maybe other ministries, they are also facing a similar challenges. There are challenges that Treasury is not releasing the money. Yes, we would agree with you, Honorable Member, to say if money is not being released that was approved, you are giving maybe 15%. What is the essence of increasing the budget? So our humble appeal is to the expanded budget committee to make a recommendation to say ministries are not receiving their targeted and approved amounts to meet their expenditure. So Treasury should pull up their socks by giving what is budgeted for, if what we are focusing on as development in the country is to be achieved. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Mabumba. Then Honorable Mumba.
Thank you, Chair. For me, Chair, okay, if I look at our colleagues' recommendation on page 7 of their submission, and then on page 5 on the non-tax revenue contribution of the Ministry of Transport and Logistics. Now, when you look at their recommendation, Chair, in 1 and 2 there, is it 1? Let me see. Yeah, 1 and 2. Obviously, you are talking of not less than 200, closer to 300 million, which is needed by this institution. But at the same time, Chair, we are aware that RATSA is a revenue center, of course, in addition to being a cost center. So, colleagues, I don't know whether you are the expert, because RATSA is supposed to be given, they need almost 300 million. If government agreed with them in terms of target setting, you are supposed to generate this revenue. Out of this revenue, we are going to give you this. Because if you look at their revenue performance, if you look at the chart here, can we ascertain that they are collecting enough money when we have got so many vehicles on the road, and many of them maybe even remains unregistered? So, Honorable Chibwe, with your colleagues, did you interrogate a situation where, you know, it's a give and take, you know, as government means of finance, working with RATSA, they agree on the revenue targets that RATSA is supposed to achieve, because I know they can collect beyond this money which is stated in this graph, as opposed to the amount of money that they need. So I don't know whether that interrogation was made. Then the other one, Chair, also on the same recommendation that they are making in terms of the staff recruitment, we are aware, colleagues, that RATSA and the Zambia Police, through the traffic department, there is that collaboration with them. So in the midst of the financial challenges, why is it that the RATSA and Zambia Police, because I'm sure Zambia Police may have more staff, you know, through the traffic department, which RATSA can get. And therefore, we may not even need this amount of money which they need, unless if they are saying, if this money was allocated to RATSA for them to get this number of employees, 392, then that collaboration with them, with the Ministry of Home Affairs, will no longer apply. Maybe that can, so Honorable, we were just trying to push it to the corner. in the midst of the budget being limited, that collaboration between these two major ministries, why can't it take effect so that we minimize on the amount of money that they are looking for? I submit.
Okay. Well, thank you. Honorable Mumba.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning. And just to buttress the point that Honorable Mabumba has raised, as the chairman was explaining, I started thinking about why the collaboration between RATSA and Zambia Police, the traffic department, which is a fully fledged department, is not being utilized. In the past, there used to be that very close relationship. Sometimes the CEO of RATSA will actually be selected from Zambia Police to head the traffic because it was like a traffic department. So I think that needs to be revisited, considering the fact that the port where Zambia Police gets money from and where RATSA gets money from is the same port, which is the Treasury. So there should be a way that there should be some kind of collaboration to just drop the costs. Then in addition to that observation, I take you to Zambia Railways on page 7, where the committee observes with concern over the 100 million allocated to Zambia Railways to support the track works under Head 21. For me, in the first place, Zambia Railways is not supposed to get even any money. It's a business. It's not also supposed to be supported by taxpayers. It's running a business. It's supposed to be able to have a healthy liquidity, and actually these are the same companies that are not paying any taxes, but yet our people out there, you have heard even those who are going to have tuntembas on the walls of their houses have to pay tax. These companies are not paying any tax, so why should we give them 100 million? And this is what is causing these companies to be lazy, because they know they can draw from the treasury. So I wanted you to explain more on this.
Thank you. Can you explain those, then we'll come to Honorable Maringa?
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. I wanted to take up the RATSA one. Okay. Thank you, Chair. Chair, the committee took time to interrogate the Ministry of Transport, to which they disclosed to us that they are the second revenue collector or revenue collector in terms of non-tax revenue, to which these issues you are raising here, we raised them about RATSA collecting a lot of money against the team they want to recruit. They also said we are currently understaffed, and that is a more reason why we are not collecting enough revenue. Hence the reasons why we are demanding that if given this allocation, we'll be able to recruit more. As things stand, they said particularly on the northern region, there are very few stations as RATSA. The stations that they have there, they are quite few as compared. The Ndola, you would find that they only have one station, as opposed to Ndola is big. Maybe they could have had 4 stations to see these people. When you go to RATSA, you find queues and queues. People have gone there to clear their vehicles, to buy a road tax. They are unable to. It will take you 5 days, 6 days. They also highlighted the issue of the network. We also highlighted the issue of the network to them, to say there have been challenges of people saying when you go to RATSA, they will tell you find people queues and queues seated that there is no network, and that is time we waste to collect the much needed revenue that the treasury needs. All these were highlighted. So the ministry submitted that they needed that money so that they can recruit more staff and set up more stations, so that they would be able to collect more revenue that we are currently demanding. Honorable Mumba, the revenue we are talking about can only come when we expand the number of station or collection points for these revenues, and this is what they actually submitted.
I'll allow also through you, Chair, the Honorable Member for Kwacha maybe to say 1 or 2 things.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and good morning, Chairperson and all the members of the expanded committee. I'm Honorable Charles Zabemulenga, Member of Parliament for Kwacha and a member of the Committee on Transport, Works and Supply. Sorry for having come late. I'm just arriving from Kitwe. Just quickly to respond to Honorable Mumba on the issue of Zambia Railways, where he has mentioned that they shouldn't receive any funding because currently Zambia Railways requires 100 million recapitalization to ensure that they look at rehabilitating of the rail network. Zambia Railways in its current form, it has a dilapidated infrastructure. Of course, the company is quite viable and it can turn around its fortunes if only the infrastructure was put back in good terms. But when you look at the infrastructure dotted across the country, right from is it Chingola, Chirabombwe, up to Livingstone, you notice that if nothing is done in the shortest possible time, then we'll have a standstill in terms of operations of the company. So there is need that government quickly comes in to push in some funding so that we can rehabilitate the entire, rail in the country. Otherwise, viability is there, but it can't, make money right now, because even when you talk of the speed, it's in the range of 15 kilometers per hour. Which investor or which probably a trader or businessman will be able to, utilize Zambia Railways given that speed? Because time is money, and therefore it's important that there is a recapitalization of the rail network so that Zambia Railways can increase the fleet of cargo. Of course, there is a lot of companies that intends and that are vying to trade or maybe to use Zambia Railways infrastructure. But because of the bad state of infrastructure, 15 kilometers per hour, it's not attractive anymore. So there is need that the government at the moment initiates programs either through funding within the government coffers or under PPP financing model, so that we can quickly look at bringing back Zambia Railways in the position that it can start making money by attracting a lot of companies and also any other individuals that may want to use Zambia Railways. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Chair, allow me just maybe to sum up on the concerns. My colleagues have actually labored to respond to the concerns. Probably maybe just to add one or two on the same. Let me begin with the concerns of Honorable Mumba on as to why Zambia Railways should even be funded, because it's a business entity. Yes, Zambia Railways is a business entity, and it's actually got the capacity to turn around, as my colleague has said, once everything is put in place. Allow me, Chair, also maybe to give again an example as to why Zambia Railways needs injection of capital. Outside the same Mulowezi Livingstone Road or the Chingola Chilabombwe Livingstone passenger train, Zambia Railways came out clearly that on those passenger trains they don't make any profits. It's more like it's a social responsibility that they do. West for Mulowezi, they don't make any profits. They get profits from other lines and pump into Mulowezi to ferry the passenger train there. So you can see that whilst we are trying to say Zambia Railways needs injection, most of it, apart from the rolling stock and the volumes of goods that they haul, otherwise in terms of passenger train, Chair, they don't make any profits. It's a corporate social arrangement just to help people. Imagine from Livingstone to Mulowezi, Zambia Railways, we are told a person pays, is it 100 kwacha? 100 kwacha, a distance of over 100 kilometers, which ordinarily, Chairperson, by road, you'll be paying about 300 to 400 kwacha. So on that one, maybe Zambia Railways can be given some benefit of doubt. On the collaboration, the issue that was raised by Honorable Mavumba on the collaboration by RATSA and traffic, You cited that Zambia police has got quite a number of human resource in terms of traffic. Yes, it is true. But we need to remember, Chairperson, that the two are two different entities. I believe RATSA is a policy formulator and the Zambia police are there to reinforce the rules that are formulated by RATSA. That is why sometimes you find that the two cannot maybe go together, but in most cases where you find a RATSA officer on the highway, you find that there is also a Zambia police officer. So in short, they are saying, as my colleague has said, once they open more stations, in fact, Chair, in terms of meeting the targets, they do. But they are saying they can increase their revenue collections once they open a lot of stations. Go to Shangombo, there is no station there for RATSA. But vehicles are there, Chairperson, moving freely without any road tax, without anything. That is the revenue we are losing. Go to Kawambwa, go to these remote areas, Kabanda Ejima in Minilunga. There is no RATSA officers there. So they are saying once they improve on their human level staffing levels, they will be able, Chairperson, to open a lot of stations, and as such they will be collecting all that revenue that is lying around there uncollected. On the issue of RATSA targets, I think I've mentioned, they confirmed that they actually do meet the targets. That's why the CEO mentioned that they are the second in terms of revenue collection towards the GDP, followed by the mines. Is it? ZRA, sorry, by ZRA. So they collect also a lot of revenue, but all they need is actually to be empowered in terms of human resource, the fleet of vehicles, then they will even be able to collect more than they are collecting today, Chairperson. I thank you.
Thank you. Our last question will come from Honorable Mabenga. Sorry. Honorable members, okay. Honorable Mabenga.
Yes, thank you, Chair. My earlier question was not fully answered on the stored infrastructure, you know, in the new district. That's why I asked whether it had been budgeted under this item number 1001 or not, because what are we going to do about those infrastructure, because they are going to waste at the moment. That will be wasteful expenditure. So I haven't heard a correct answer on this one. What do we do with all the installed infrastructure? Then the other issue, Chair, instead of recruiting more staff under RATSA, I don't know what they thought of why can't we go in technology, because as in most of the countries now, they're using cameras rather than employing more people to actually monitor the traffic on the road, see the behavior of the people. Because cameras, they are very, very reliable. It's 24 hours, they'll give you information. And also there was a pronouncement by the Honorable Minister that there will be honorary traffic officers who will be patrolling the roads. So why can't we look at those, because those are voluntary people, so we don't need to spend anything on them, rather than recruiting more people. Maybe if you want to recruit more people, why can't we delegate that responsibility to the councils rather than making the institution bigger, because that institution was made for policy issues rather than actually doing the work. Most of the work is supposed to be done by the police because they have no capacity. Even if we increase, they have no capacity to arrest anyone. It's only the traffic police who can arrest. So why can't we also think of delegating to councils in terms of road licenses, because we are looking at the Decentralization Act now being coming into full force. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Honorable Simunji, before you come in.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I want to draw your attention to the issue of Zambia Railways. Like my colleague, Honorable Mumba has stated, Zambia Railways is a base venture, but the infrastructure is old. The coaches are old. So even if we put in money less than 500 million kwacha, what will we do? Did you find out from the committee or from the witnesses if they had looked into the issue of PPP so that they can come and run the business for the Zambians? Otherwise, if you have to use the money from the budgeting system, it will never be revitalized. It will no longer be a cash cow. For now, I'll call it a dog, which can be killed. There are your comments.
Chair, thank you very much. Before you come in, let's take the last one so that we finish all of them. So take a tab on Honorable Mabenga, Honorable Simunji, Honorable Mumba.
Chair, thank you for the opportunity. So just to write on the points that Honorable Mabenga raised. The chairman keeps talking about us employing people under RATSA, and then they will have infrastructure. Infrastructure is another cost. But when you look at the police, they are dotted everywhere, even in Shangombo, there are police stations everywhere. So my concern as a member of this committee, looking at the non-availability of resources, I was thinking that maybe we should encourage RATSA to have closer collaboration with the police. I think that way we'll be able to reduce these, these costs. And then in addition to Zambia Railways, many a time, they have other sources of revenue. They sell their scrap, they sell all these things, and these things that they sell are usually millions and millions of dollars. I was wondering whether the committee had interrogated any other sources of revenue that they can have, which maybe government can support them through authority, or even going onto the market and borrowing as a business. Because definitely this 100 million, they'll be getting 20, 10, 15, considering, looking at the pattern in which the funding has been going on, and that will not help them. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chairperson, you can respond.
Thank you very much, Chairperson, and thank you very much, Honourable Members, for the questions. I will allow Honourable Kapyanga to respond to the questions from Honourable Mumba, though very similar to that of Honourable Simunji that side. And I'll take the question from Honourable Mabenga. And Honourable Luboza can come in and also chip in. Yeah, Chairperson, the Honourable Member is concerned as to why we need to give Zambia Railways the amount, or RATSA, particularly RATSA, to increase on the staffing levels. Chairperson, we have explained here that our interaction with these various, the two witnesses, head 51 and 54, was specifically to find the solution and to hear from them the challenges that they are facing. Honorable Mabenga has actually said, why should we give RATSA this money to recruit more people when we have technology? He's very correct. We are living under the technology era today, where we even have the AI. But I'll give you the same example, Honorable Chairperson and the committee. Today, RATSA is failing to correct most of its revenue. Even when we have this technology, we have got the government bus today. You go to Shangombo, Honorable Chair, you won't be able to register your vehicle or to get your RATSA disc in terms of road tax, fitness, and otherwise. The reason, the same technology, Chair, is failing us. We don't have most of the time network that side. So the reason why we are saying we must have this interface. Yes, corruption can be there, but while as technology is failing us, we're not going to fold, or RATSA is going to fold their hands and say we can't employ because we have technology. What a human being can do, a robot or a phone can do. Yes, it can. But you go to Mwinilunga, go to Shangombo today, try to obtain your disc through the phone, Chairperson, you want. What does that mean? We are losing revenue that Zambia and that RATSA is supposed to collect. So the committee felt that it's genuine and RATSA should be given this money to recruit more people so that we can have RATSA dotted around all the countries, even in areas where you are not able to reach. Yes, Honorable Mabenga, RATSA, in terms of decentralization, the Zambia Postal Services are actually performing some of the responsibilities that are supposed to be performed by RATSA. But even though when they are doing this, because it's not their core business, we still have the same problem that Honorable was mentioned of queuing up. And what does queuing up mean? It bleeds corruption, Chairperson. Because if I go there this morning, I'm there up to 12 hours, I'm not being attended to. Next time I go there, this person will tell me, I can do it quickly for you. That is corruption now coming in. So even when we're living in the technology era, Honorable Mabenga, we need to just arm the RATSA in terms of the staffing levels. Installed infrastructure. I believe, Chair, from the witnesses, it came out clearly. This infrastructure, for example, Zambia Railways, has been neglected for a long time. But I believe it's not for this government to continue neglecting this infrastructure because it has been neglected. Otherwise, it will be gone. So it's just important that we ask the executive to tighten up their belts in terms of finances and start looking at improving these infrastructures. Mulobezi, we went there specifically as a committee. It's a sorry sight in terms of what the rail line is there. Sometimes, and we were told, Honorable Chair, not to waste the committee's time, that they send experienced locomotive drivers to that line who moves at 5-10 kilometers per hour, and once he observes something, he would stop, and then he will instruct people, or the mechanics and whatever from behind, to go and start doing the line properly. Now you can imagine that happening in this era, Chair. So we just need to arm these institutions so that tomorrow you can be counted that at least this government, this committee, this ministry did something during this time. Otherwise, if we say they are not making any profits, then it's better we tell them to close up. Sorry to say that, Chairperson. I will ask my colleague, to Honorable Kapianga, maybe to add one or two words before we come to Honorable Wozian.
Thank you, Chair, and you've sufficiently elaborated, Chair. Just in addition to that, RATSA also is in a position to absorb some of our unemployed youths, and its core mandate is not only to enforce. It also does licensing, registration, and other services that cannot be accessed by our people online, especially getting a driver's license. So by RATSA employing more staff and also taking their services closer to the people, it would help a great deal and cut on costs associated with our people moving from one area to go and maybe say get a driver's license. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, when the Minister of Finance presented the budget, he clearly stated that our budget will be financed 82% from our own domestic revenue. Our budget will be financed now 82% from our domestic revenue. This in itself calls for every meaning for Zambian, urgent, any government department to be on our toes to ensure that anything we can do to collect the revenue in order to meet the budget expectation. So, Chair, even as we are talking now, we are saying the Ministry of Transport is the second collector of revenue to ZRI in terms of non-tax revenue. So if our colleagues have cried to say they need they need about 392 staff who assist them to go on the ground and collect the much needed revenue, and today surely us in this committee would argue to say we don't need them to employ those people. Look at the teachers, 40,000 who are not contributing to the collection of revenue. They are a cost to the nation we are employing. But we demand for 392 who are supposed to assist us in the what? In the collection of revenue that is needed in the treasury. Then we say no, they are supposed to use council officers, they are supposed to use police officers. Definitely we are not being sincere to ourselves. Indeed.
Thank you. Point of order has been raised. Honorable Mumba. Honorable Member, Mike.
Mr. Chairman, we are here to interrogate the budget and the optimal use of resources. There is nothing wrong with suggesting that human capital which is available, whether through the council or whether through the police, cannot be an option. Is the honorable member here to present his report, which we are interrogating? Is it in order to start castigating us? That surely teachers who are supposed to give us value of knowledge don't contribute anything? Mr. Speaker, Mr. Chairman, I need your serious.
Honorable Member, this is an emotive issue, and for the committee, they are here to defend also the position they get, because they want something to be done about this. So to a large extent, the honorable member for Kantanshi, they are on a equal footing in terms of course they want this thing to be done, and this is their committee. So they want funds to be that. So to a large extent, is on point. Only that to the extent that you should not castigate this this committee. So then I also not allow that. Okay, all our members, we need to bring to closure to this honorable Musanya. I will not give you. I had indicated those were the last questions.
Yes, I haven't finished.
You can
yes, let me just wind up. So, Chair, we are saying every expansion in terms of human resource creation of department that we may think of that will assist us in the collecting of revenue, let us bring them on board, because they are not a cost center, but they are an income bringing in effort that is currently being proposed. So in summary, Chair, we are saying that let us do our best to ensure that our colleagues at RATSA are equipped with enough manpower so that they can collect the much needed revenue, particularly in areas where technology may not apply. In rural areas would need physical presence of RATSA if revenue is to be collected in those areas for the much needed revenue that the Treasury needs to finance our budget. Thank you.
Thank you. Honorable Sumuja had asked a question on the PPs for the railway line. Did you consider that?
Chairperson, unless any one of my members wants to pick that, I will pick it. Chairperson, indeed, that came out clearly during our interaction with especially Zambia Railways. But before I come to that, let me just give some comfort again to Honorable Mabenga. I didn't respond to his concern in terms of the installed infrastructure. Chair, we actually interrogated, and we were fortunate when the minister himself came to present a policy statement. We looked at the budget and we looked at the infrastructure that is stored. We questioned him as to why he had actually asked for that money, which was not going to be sufficient to cater for the installed projects. The minister categorically stated that yes, he would have loved, underlined, he would have loved to have enough money allocated to his ministry, and that's Ministry of Infrastructure and Urban Development. But he was constrained because he was looking at there are so many needs from other ministries, also targeted or centered on the same Minister of Finance. So he said, as if he had means, he would have requested for more money, but he was constrained because other needs from other government ministries also look at the same ministry. So that we interrogated, and the minister came out clearly himself. Otherwise, for the PPP, it also came out again. But here is the situation, Chairperson and the committee. PPP is a long undertaking. And as my colleague stated here, when someone invests, a Chairperson, he wants to have a return in a record time. But if you're talking about constructing a rail line from Livingstone to Chililawombwe, the first thing that we are going to look at, yes, the government is earmarking or envisaging to transport about 3 million metric tons of copper by the year 2030, and which copper cannot all run on the roads. It's impossible. So it needs to run on the rail part of it. And we're also talking about the 10 million metric tons of grain. So the question that came out was, those that would want to come on board in terms of PPP, one, we have another issue, Chair, which I don't want to open a Pandora's box in terms of encroachment on Zambia Railways land, all the way from Livingstone to Chililawombwe. We were in Choma West. The rail tracks have been taken. There is a market now in Chililawombwe, in Choma. So we are saying this investor would want to come and invest in the rail line. One, do we have the land or the running track, the land that is going to do the running track, or what kind of tracks are they going to do? What is the payback period? All those things were asked, and we left it to the management of Zambia to come out in the open if at all they needed a PPP to come on board. Otherwise, Honorable Member for Kantanshi, that also was discussed with Zambia Railways, and they have actually that vision that they can also go into PP if a partner would come out. Look around the region, Chairperson. We are actually lacking behind. You go to Tanzania, they were also doing, in terms of GRS, they were doing 40 kilometers per hour. Today, from Dar es Salaam to Dodoma, they are doing, is it 200 kilometers per hour, the passenger train? While we are still at 15, where the fastest on our tracks is 40 kilometers per hour. So we need to improve on the GSR, Gauge Standards Railway, just as our neighbors are doing. Because even when we are talking of the corridors that we are talking about, South Africa, their speed is more than us. Now, if the goods are moving from South Africa to Zambia, they find the delays here, then we won't be able to fit into that business. Hence, our request that Zambia Railways should be given a shot in their arm.
Okay, honorable members, we need to end here. I think we have taken quite a lot of time on this committee, which is very good. Thank you, Vice Chairperson, with your team for coming. We are meeting the Minister of Finance on Wednesday, and we'll consolidate all these recommendations for possible action by his team. So once again, we want to thank you most sincerely for coming through. Have a good day.
Chairperson, thank you very much. On behalf of our chairperson and my colleagues who came before you, we appreciate the interaction.
Thank you. Okay, let's go.
I was watching Parliament television, and that was Mr. Joy Chivuye appearing before the committee. He wasn't appearing alone, but he appeared as the Vice Chairperson for Committee on Transport, Works and Supply, together with other members in the same committee. They were appearing before the Expanded and Planning Budgeting Committee, which is considering the 2026 sector budget analysis. Today we do have 3 witnesses, and already 2 witnesses have appeared before the committee. We still have 1 witness, which is a committee on youth, sports and child development. Do stand by right here on Parliament TV.
Members, we now have the Committee on Youth, Sport and Child Matters. Good morning, Vice Chairperson, and you're welcome.